that you are still with us. My name is Vivian Dagwa. This is Good Morning Kenya, and right now we get into the health segment. And today on health, we are looking at menstruation health, and menstruation hygiene as well. And just before we got back on air, you have watched that feature on menstruation, which is a really good feature. And it's really nice to see that there are advancements when you talk about menstrual health, and we will be looking into that. I have with me Dr. Hayombe Sibul Kambala. He is a public health consultant, and he's here to talk to us about menstrual hygiene and health in general. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hayombe Sibul Kambala, public health consultant. I consult on a wide range of public health issues, from maternal newborn child health, sexual reproductive health, including family planning, water, sanitation, and hygiene, and of lately now digressing to nutrition, dietetics, and livelihood, climate change as now the world goes. So I see menstrual hygiene and management in 5 or so aspects. First is about knowledge. Knowledge at appropriate age. For example, a girl needs to know that between the ages 10 to 16, she can be able to start her menses. So that's very important at an early age, that they know that such a thing will occur in her life. Secondly, once this begins, a woman and a girl now needs to know that the menstruation is either regular or regular. Where regular means after every 28 days, their menses come. While irregular, it would occur between 24th to even 35th of the month, days. So once you know that, you're able now to manage yourself. And of course, this knowledge is important in guarding the taboos and myths that surround menstrual hygiene, especially, for example, when the color of the blood changes from the very dark green and red to light. And of course, again, one other knowledge that is important is to know how long your menses take, say between 3 days to 7 days, or yours is 4 days, 5 days, every time it occurs. So that knowledge is important because it helps you to now manage it. Secondly, menstrual hygiene, I look at it in terms of access or products that helps us to manage menstrual hygiene. These are very important technologies that have been brought in that are useful in helping ladies manage this. Menstrual hygiene towels, and we are happy that technologies have improved such that now we have very comfortable towels that are useful. Again, here, a lady needs also to know what are the types she's able to use, because there are very many different types in the bucket. So that knowledge is important for her to manage that. Secondly, I'll see menstrual hygiene management, thirdly, menstrual hygiene management in terms of how to relieve the waste. For example, where do you take the sanitary pad once it's used? Disposal. So there's that waste disposal that is important in terms of where do you deposit. And of course, again, here, technology has helped us that we now have biodegradable towels that once you dispose it well, it's able to be consumed by bacteria and then released to the environment. The next, I see menstrual hygiene management in terms of policy. As a country, and of course as government, and of course in terms of health, there are several policies that have been brought about in terms of menstrual health management, where we talk of, say for example, in our Constitution 2010, Article 43, talks about access to water, sanitation, and good hygiene, meaning that the government is supposed to provide this as part of what our health requires. Now again, in terms of policy, you find that Education Act, and of course in health promotion, school health promotion, requires that government provides these sanitary towels at basic schools. And this should be easily available for girls who need to use them. And probably lastly, menstrual management hygiene requires that we provide support. Remember the intro that we had here. During this process, you find that women or girls suffer some pains. They have back pains and all that, and maybe some suffer from headache. So they need support from boys, from men, and from even at workplace, so that when they are in that period, we are able to give them support. Maybe they are given light duties, or we can understand probably why they are slow in doing something. And this support is part of menstrual hygiene management, which should be done. So for me, those 5 really expresses what menstrual hygiene and management should do.
Yeah, and how it should look like.
Yes.
You've gotten into very important things and crucial, and that is all we're going to be dissecting in this conversation. But probably just before we dive into that, what, in very simple terms, what is menstrual health?
Menstrual health here means that every woman and of course every girl should be very happy that at the point God made her, she experiences the blood flow. This blood flow is as a result of the uterus wall preparing for implantation and over if it is fertilized. But because it may not have been fertilized, then it then sheds off and comes out as blood, which then is called menstruation or menstrual flow. And that the hygiene now follows. How do you control it? How do you allow this flow to come out of your body with decencies that you're not seen to have blood splashing out of you? So it gets into the, and again, that this is a beautiful thing for all women and girls. Each time they experience it, they really know that their reproduction organ is working.
Yeah, that
so
the
they should be very happy.
reproductive system is actually
active and working.
Yes.
And ready.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you mentioned that are important in this conversation from the very beginning is information. And this specifically is information to the younger girls, who are just about to start, during that adolescent period from the ages of 10 to 16, which is when most girls begin their menstruation. Some begin earlier, from around 8 years old. But now I remember while I was back in primary school, we used to be given information on this, but the boys were put aside. They would call a meeting with the girls in the school, but the boys would be put aside. Why is it important to include boys in this conversation as well?
Remember, one of the points I said that women require support during this time. And as you have already indicated, we know that, for example, in Kenya, research came out and said that the mean age for menstruation among our girls is 14.4 years. But it can happen as early as 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
So it's something that would come suddenly, and they would not be knowing. They would not be ready to now support in terms of management. So men and boys need to be brought in to know that there might be some incidents, I would call them, where a woman or a girl is not prepared that her menses is going to begin, yet it begins in the midst of maybe some discussion or some classroom activity, or even they are already outside in exercising, and then this suddenly happens because our body is natural, and some of these natural things, God knows, we may not know exactly when something happens. So the bringing in of boys here would be very important to help support a woman or a girl wherein they are in that situation, so that it doesn't bring in stigma, as well as they now know how to play with him or with the girls, and even at older age, men, for example, need to know this so that they are able to support their wives. But very importantly, the reason probably why you guys at that age, it's important to separate the boys from girls as you give them this information, but then also combine them later, because in science, they are taught together. So when you put girls separately, you're able to discuss more in depth. And that was the main reason why probably you give more girls more information while boys are separate, but then in other learning sessions, they both learn together. One other thing also I wanted to indicate here is that since the beginning of menstruation may not be known, it's important to provide this information. And it has been noticed and seen that knowledge information provision is mostly provided by the mothers. The fathers are not anywhere. About 85% done by the mothers.
Yeah.
So in Africa, we don't discuss sexuality openly, but we would encourage men to do this. And again, you find that this discussion is more from parents and less from teachers. Teachers about 14% or so that provide this information, but they are encouraged to give girls and women this information.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as you have said, you know, sometimes it's dubbed as taboo, specifically for a father to talk about, you know, menstruation with their daughters, which is not supposed to be the case. Maybe what are some of the misconceptions around menstruation that you feel should be demystified?
Knowledge is key. For example, knowing that a woman will experience her menses after every, often say 28 days for those who are regular, and 24 to 35 days for those who are irregular. Some of the misconceptions have been misunderstanding, and of course, especially when it comes with, say, some illnesses, some cases where women are weak. So because of this, people think that probably their bodies are not like developing well. So in the end, people misunderstand. The reason why, for example, if somebody is in their menses, it's not because of the blood is coming out, which probably uses some energy. They should be given some rest and they should be supported. But because this support is not provided, so people feel that probably they are not feeling that kind of pain yet. It's painful. So men and the rest of the community members should know that during this period, the support is very, very important so that we alleviate this kind of misconception. And again, some of the myths have come in as a result of probably some incidences that happen to girls when probably they're not having knowledge of the menstruation coming out. And when these incidents come, then they are thought of to have been like a bit careless, yet nobody knows how nature operates.
Yeah, so
and probably
stigmatized.
And remember the irregular ones, where at one point the period is 24 or 25 days. At one point it's 35 days. So you can't be able to monitor it very well. Yeah. So in case you get an accident, you find people now don't think that probably you are not so concerned about your body and all that, yet this is nature and it's not very easy to manage or control. Yeah.
What are some of the hygiene tips on menstruation that you feel should be pointed out?
Very well. Like I mentioned earlier, that somebody needs to study themselves. So one of this information is that you need to know how deep your flow is from the beginning, so that maybe the very first day is very usual, that the very first days is usually very deep. So knowing that the very first 4 or 5 days is very deep, you are able to you're able to know when to do the changing of your towels. And again, also, you also need to ensure that you know the sizes of the menstrual towels you're taking, so that this therefore augurs well. And of course, this also goes together with the kind of undergarment somebody wears, so that it planned and is able to fit in well between the towel as well as the undergarment. And this now helps. And something probably I've not mentioned and very important and key here for hygiene is access to water and soap. So wherever you have already done the change, you need to use running water and, of course, soap, which kills the germs and therefore keeps you very hygiene. Yeah.
You've mentioned about flow, and maybe what determines the flow in terms of, there are people who experience very heavy flows, there are those who experience very light flows, there are those who may start experiencing heavy and then it goes, to getting lighter. So what really determines, is there a specific thing that determines that, and can someone work on maybe changing their flow?
Like I've said, nature is nature is very difficult to at times to pin it down.
Yeah.
But people have proposed that probably the weight, for example, weight of someone, so the very heavy ones normally have very heavy flow, because you can imagine that the uterus now also becomes heavy and is bigger. So because of that weight, it flows more at the beginning. Secondly, apart from weight, it has also been said that diet. So if you heavily consume a good diet that has is well balanced and a lot of protein, then your flow is likely to be more. But I would not say this specific serious means, because people are born differently, and probably I'm saying this, and very slim lady would have very heavy flows. And again, one other thing also that probably may control the flow would be, what is your sexual history? So that if your sexual history was closer to maybe your menstrual period, then you find probably the flow is high or more. But for all, the flow is more at the very first 2-3 days, then it goes down to the last day, it's very little. Yeah.
Okay. As we say, this is something very natural.
Very natural, very difficult to understand.
Yeah, it may be difficult to understand. Now, most of the times, menstruation is associated with pain. Even from the feature that we were just watching, it is associated with pain, and sometimes we normalize it. But we don't really need to normalize that pain, because sometimes the pain should be looked into. But now, since you're used to hearing, I have period cramps, so it's normal. So sometimes we don't pay too much attention to this pain, and it may be something that needs to be looked into, like endometriosis. So when exactly should this pain be alarming to a young lady watching us right now?
Pain, we think it's usual, but it's not usual, just the way you have put it. You see, this is a case where it's a wall of the uterus that's now coming out. So it means that blood cells are cutting and leaving the blood now to come out and flow out. So this is like it's being pierced away to release this blood. So obviously it can come with pain, because the cell that had contained the blood now opens out and the blood comes out. So usually at the second day, there is usually more pain felt. And when for a woman to feel that it's more alarming, that you study your history. Most of this is because of experience. So because you have gone through several periods, you're able to study yourself and this one is now beyond what I've been feeling. And for that case, you need to take medical attention. Though usually you would find people would take just painkillers and their day progresses. And of course, people are different. Some would go through their menses, but they do not suffer much of these side effects, while others, it's too serious, they may not even have to go to work. So you study your own history and then be able to see that at this level, I'm feeling this pain and cramps, it's now worth going to see a medical doctor. And as we are seeing in the feature that you had, it's very, very wonderful that that kind of technology has been produced. And if it is reusable, it would be very good for almost every lady to have it, because you are sure that your menses are going to come, and therefore you'll be able to use that to regulate the pains.
Yeah, and still on that pain, I mean, when we, even just by myself, when I have conversations with, other women, and even on social media, there's a time there was a conversation, and someone had put up a post just to allow ladies to speak about how they feel, when they are menstruating, so that the men can try and understand them. And so many people had different things to say. You know, some say that it comes with a headache, back pain, leg pain, diarrhea. I mean, something you don't even think about, you know. It comes with even a flu. Someone gets a flu out of it. And like, it's really important to have that conversation so that we get the support that you are actually talking about from the start, even in workplaces. You know, when a lady says they're not able to come to work because they are they're menstruating, they're in the cycle at that moment, she should be understood, you know, because sometimes it gets too hard. And on how to manage some of this pain, you know, we've talked about painkillers. You know, there's the hot water. There's hot water bottles that you can use to place around your abdomen. And then now there's the device that we've actually just, it's a new device, and it's really good to see that technology is advancing day by day. They call it the Jolly device. So maybe what are some of the advancements that are there when we're talking about menstruation and menstrual health?
Yeah, I like the way, for example, the sanitary towels have changed over time. That they are softer, smoother, and they have more absorptive capacity, and that they are more comfortable than they used to be. So that has somehow alleviated some of the pains that women used to go through. But at the level of support, a lot is required in terms of reducing your activity, so that if you are a very active person, then you reduce your level of activity to something low. If you go to work and sit on a desk, probably you also may need to not sit very long. In terms of technology like the one we've seen that you wear and you're able to, it's able to reduce your pain, a lot of it has been more of medicine. For example, a number of family planning methods have been used to reduce the flow of blood and also to reduce the pain. So doctors would prescribe for you that during your menses you take some of those pills, and that reduces the pain as well as reducing your menstrual flow. So in terms of medicine and the gadget you just seen, very useful in terms of just reducing the pain that would come along. And people are different, people are different. And again, these periods also would be different in the way they flow as we run through our lives. For example, we have said that there are those who are regular and they take 28 days. So we expect that they would have, say, about 13, 14 occurrences of their menses within 1 year. At times, this doesn't happen. Okay, so, and depends with how life takes them, some stress here, some sickness here, and all that. So you find that even those who even know that their menses are regular, they would miss by 1 day or so, by it coming early by 1 day or coming late by a day, because of what we go through life. Say some sickness, some stress, some hunger somewhere, or too much food also, because the opposite is also true. All right, now, still on the flow, you know, and the color now. You know, it comes out in different colors. You know, could be dark brown, could be red, could be light red. Is there a color that should be alarming, that when you see that particular color, it could not be very normal? Menses. Okay, blood, for example, that color, it's not necessarily that there is something so serious about the blood, as it were, but its concentration. For example, if it just gets out and it curdles, it becomes more brown than being red. But then when it comes out and is not curdled, it's not clotted, for that matter. I think that's the right word. It's not clotted. Then it's more visible that it's become red towards men are very poor in colors, pink and not pink. But depending on how concentrated it is, the color changes. And like it is, the very first days of a lot of flow, it's more red and it could be brown because probably it has clotted. And then it reduces because now it's a bit slightly pure. But remember, at the beginning, it comes out with the opening cells that it allows the rest to start coming. So towards the end, the cells that kept the blood had already come out, so you expect the color to be slightly red compared to the very beginning. Yeah.
So it's different, and there's no particular color that can be alarming?
I'm not very sure alarming, because this would depend also on individual.
Yeah.
But usually at the beginning, if it is very, very thick and getting to brown, not red, then that could be a bit alarming. But the point here is that it is at the beginning, so you expect more flow. And again, this color that you see, it would also depend on when the towel has been removed. Say if it takes too long on the pad, then color is likely to change. But then when after a short while, somebody removes the pad, you'll find that it's simply blood that has not clotted, and therefore the color looks very red color of the blood. But when it's removed after a long time, staying within the pad, then because of the clotting, you see the color different. But color which is not very red, like red blood should be, then that should be a bit also alarming.
Yeah.
Then
maybe
visit a physician and probably get to be diagnosed. But most of the time, it would also depend on how long did the pad stay with you when the blood came out.
Yeah. Then it's also just good to manage yourself individually.
Management here is very important. Like remember, I mentioned at the beginning that you need to study your flow, and your flow will guide you how often you do the changing of the towel, and then when that is done, you are not able to see those kind of experiences where the blood within the pad is clotting. Yeah.
So it's really important to just manage your own flow
as a young... some people produce very thick flow.
Yeah.
So people are different.
Yeah. So just know your flow, know how many days, know the color, and so whenever you see anything different, then that should be alarming for you.
And per day, how often do you change it so that your hygiene becomes good and that.
Okay, let's talk about menstrual products. You know, as you've mentioned, they've gone advancing, like they keep advancing with time, and we have several products. You know, there's the sanitary towels, that there's also towels that are reusable. We have the tampons, we have the menstrual cups now. Maybe is there any downside to any of these products?
There could be, but mostly it's because somebody studies themselves and therefore able to choose what suits them. For example, why would somebody choose tampons instead of sanitary towel? So it depends with again choice and also at some level affordability. But I would say the cups are like more advanced from these other two, the tampons and the normal sanitary towels. And therefore, people who go for them find they are easier to use. Again, it also depends on the structure of the lady, the physique of the lady, and that helps now to choose between the three types. But for the reusable as well as the ones that are disposable, it's more hygienic to use the disposable than using the reusable, because most of the time you find access to water and soap is a bit difficult. But where there's access to water and there's soap or detergent, then they're also very good. And again, their hygiene needs to be done so well such that after washing, they get back to like original. And you also find that although they are reusable, they're not reusable forever. So you should also monitor up to what time do you reach to a level where now it's disposed, because it's not reusable forever. So just monitoring that would also be very, very important. But the main important thing is the choice, and the choice also depends with the structure of the woman or the girl, that now he's able to choose between this wide range. And we're happy that there are wide range of products that somebody can choose on, depending on the affordability as well as their structure. I think currently the normal sanitary towel range between 50 shillings to about 100.
Yeah.
So if you're choosing the 100 bob, probably it's because of you are able to afford that. And you're choosing the 51 because you are able to afford. The difference here may not necessarily be that the 50 bob one is not effective, but probably it feels easier, and therefore it has also not been made with the one of 100. It's just like comparing a Mercedes and Toyota, for example. So, but ideally, the choice depends on your structure and your
and they all
history.
do the same job.
Yeah?
They do the
same job.
Yeah.
They'll make you be clean, and you work with them effectively. Yeah.
And there was a conversation about the menstrual cup. You know, it's affordable since someone can reuse it so many times. But the conversation was specifically on how effective it is for the younger girls. You know, and there was actually a debate on whether it could interfere with the virginity of the younger girls. You know, because the conversation was on why really push on this menstrual cup where you're going to schools, you're giving very young girls these menstrual cups. How effective is it for them? And just what would be your take on that?
Of course, it follows a renovation of tampons, yeah? Because they use the same methodology of sort of in terms of they are inserted inside the organ so that they are able to get the blood slowly. As you mentioned, because there are things that are inserted, of course, they interfere with the virginity of the girl or the woman. And maybe a longer use would they may not be very, very, very useful at the beginning. To me, I would like you better choose those methods probably if you know your virginity has been broken. So that you now get into tampons and those caps later in course of life. And the two also may not be favorable with if you're very active in life. The towels are far much better for somebody who would still be active, but the two requires that you don't engage in a lot of activity, especially where you do some running or anything. But it's more of choice. So, as you mentioned, because they break someone's virginity, then they should be used towards the part when somebody had already broken their virginity as a result, probably marriage or something like that. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a short break and then we'll come back to continue with this conversation. Don't you go too far.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out!
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevatishwa. Sisi wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Tuesday it is, and the health segment is what is on air right now. Our topic of conversation today is on menstrual hygiene and menstrual health in general, and we have already gotten into this conversation, and now we get to continue. Now, when we talk about poor menstrual health, just what can that do to someone's health? Can it pose, or does it pose any health risks?
Thank you very much. Poor menstrual health may mean some infections. For example, there are urinary tract infections that would occur, and there would also even be vaginal infection. And this would be as a result of, say, well taken care of in terms of the blood flow, as well as people take too long before they change their towels. This can lead to some of those infections, and along the tract. Studies have shown that some women who have used control of the pain, say the bottle that you mentioned, that in the end, the way they have used the bottle on the uterus or around the abdomen have made their uterus sort of constrict, and especially if this is done at the very beginning. You know, if I wish I would draw at the beginning, when the uterus is preparing for pregnancy, if you remember your biology, it becomes bigger, the wall becomes bigger.
Yeah.
So that when now menstruation begins, it is at that big level, and as it wears out, as someone goes through the bleeding of mensing, the menses, it reducing in size. So when they press at the level when it's just still very thick like that, it has been found to cause some pains that are longer than the normal menstrual pain, and I think that it has not been encouraged a lot, and that I think that's why the technology has come in terms of just using the pad that helps to reduce pain rather than the bottle on somebody's abdominal vein.
Yeah. So it actually can pose some health risks.
Urinary tract infections, as well as vaginal tract infections, as a result of not controlling your menses well.
All right, maybe if we may go back to what role exactly does education play in the long run in menstruation?
Education is key. Knowledge is key because, like I had mentioned earlier, knowing what level of the cycle you go through, and of course, knowledge now reduces stigma as well as all myths that are associated with it. Because for some myths, for example, you find in some communities, because of myths, they would not want to use the sanitary towels in view that probably where they dispose it, somebody might end up using whatever that has come out of them. So they'd rather use the traditional poor hygienic methods. So knowledge reduces the myths, the taboos, as well as ensures that menstrual hygiene can be well taken care of. Say, just knowing that good hand wash after changing your towel is good, very useful. It reduces infection that probably you might cause to yourself. And appropriate knowledge. Remember I said appropriate knowledge, and here age-appropriate knowledge. I began by saying, at what age do we start teaching our girls about their menstruation? So appropriate knowledge is given at the right time, so that we, because also one of the other things that you find is within the myths is that depending on how it is controlled, it makes the girls to engage in sex early, especially those who use the tampons and those who use cups, because it's alleged that it gives them some urge. But that may not, those are just myths. So if with the knowledge, those kind of myths can be reduced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really important for education. Education rather plays a very big role in this as well. Now, if we can look at the policies that we have in this country on menstrual cycle, and maybe what is lacking when it comes to our policies on menstrual health.
We have very good policies, just like we have very good things written on paper. The problem is practice.
Yeah.
You find like Education Act 2017, Act number 17, makes the government to provide sanitary towels at basic institutions, that is the primary and below, so that they are able to access this. But this doesn't happen. Or it happens in a way that is not accessible throughout the year. Like, for example, you find right now, if you were to ask some of the schools, they tell you, we got them last year or we got them in January. Right now, we don't have. But this is something that is used on monthly basis from the different girls. So we have very good policies, but we are not implementing. The other thing about policy, again, on menstrual hygiene is access, which I had mentioned earlier at the beginning, that our 2010 Constitution, Act 47, says that access to water, sanitation is a human right. So you find some places still don't have water. So if they don't have water, it means they are not able to keep their menstrual hygiene well. Yet this is already something within our Constitution and within our policies. So policies are there, but they are not practically being implemented. But it's very sad, again, that we have them very nicely done like that, and then they are not acted on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate that to this date, there are people who cannot afford, menstrual products at all. We've seen cases of girls who are selling their bodies for them to be able to afford to buy just the pads, sanitary towels. We've seen cases whereby people are still using clothes, people are still using mattresses, in the very rural areas. We still see girls who isolate when they are in that time of the month where they are experiencing their cycle. They're asked to just isolate because they don't have the products used for them to feel comfortable to be around, everyone else. And it is so unfortunate. We know that at least there are no taxes on sanitary towels as we speak right now. But if we can get to a point where it is completely free. I mean, there's been a conversation on why do we have free condoms? Yet this is something that you choose to do, you choose to engage in sex. But for menstruation, it's something that is natural. I don't choose that next month I don't want to have my menstrual cycle. So if we can get to a point whereby sanitary towels can be completely free. And I would love to engage Madam Halima Sado, who's just joined us for this conversation, to just get into that. Madam, how do you feel, or what do you feel about the fact that there are ladies right now who have to sell their bodies for them to be able to, afford sanitary towels?
Thank you very much. It is so sad, so unfortunate. And those who do that, sell their body to get just a sanitary pad, are our young girls from the age of 12 and above. And in the process, they get infectious diseases, they get pregnant, and they lose the meaning of life.
Yeah. What should be done in order to, maybe who should get on board in order for us to get to a point where sanitary towels are all over? The same way you get into public hospitals and public institutions, and there are free condoms there. We also have the same with sanitary towels.
Yes, it is a collective responsibility. Our government must take the first step to do that. Our legislators must pass a law. Sanitary pad must be free for every girl in this country. Yes. And this is, we should all shout for it. It's not one-man show. We have to push for it to save our girls, because they are losing their dignity, they are losing their life. They miss school. A week in every month.
Yeah.
It affects them. It is affecting them psychologically,
Yeah.
physically. So it's something we should come together and see how we can help these girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe still on you, what are some cultural norms that you feel should be done away with completely,
Yes, yes.
matters menstrual health?
The cultural
Yeah.
thing. You are so traumatized. You are told you are dirty. You are not clean, and in case you leak a little bit, people will look at you like you are from the other world. You see, and you feel, oh, why am I here? Some girls even commit suicide. So what we should educate the community at large is a menstrual period is a normal thing. Very normal, and every girl must get. We must educate the men, we must educate our boys to know this is a normal, they should support this girl when she's in her menstrual. Because we still embrace it in a way. If a man, his girlfriend tells him, I have never had my period all my life, he will definitely abandon her.
Yeah.
You see? So if it is that important, you can abandon her for not having. Why should you traumatize her for having? Why should you stigmatize her for having the period? We should embrace it. Yes.
Maybe
it
yeah, just go ahead, sorry.
This is a natural thing. Nobody can stop it. And we should remove the stigma out of these menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe what are some do's and don'ts of menstruation that you would love to highlight?
The don'ts are very negative because to some community, when you're on your period, you don't even cook. That food is as well, it's dirty, it's unholy. When you're in your period, you don't associate with people, you are kept aside. That stigma affects them psychologically. Yes, it is contributing to their mental health.
Yeah. All right. As we get to almost come to a close of this conversation, maybe, Doc, what is your parting shots on this topic of menstruation?
In fact, Halima has really reminded me that this requires a sector-wide approach, so that we don't approach it at the health level. For example, like I'd mentioned, that access to water and sanitation is very, very important for this. So you mentioned something that I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
That girls cannot be able to get sanitary towels because they can't afford. And they end up using some created things like blankets, used blankets, or some mattresses and things like that. Yet we have our sanitary towels being sold. Why can't government, for example, provide this, as you were mentioning, for free? I know they're zero rated on the tax for sanitary towels, but that's still not enough. Somebody affording 100 shillings, if they're hungry, what would you go for? Would you go for food, or would go for a sanitary pad? So zero rating them in terms of tax may not be enough. So the government should see how this can be provided, especially to younger, and in rural areas where water and sanitation is very, very low, at almost 40% access of water. And lastly, we have very good policies.
Yeah.
We need just to implement them, from school health services to health promotion and prevention at school level. As early as girls who are at age 10, they are taught that the menses will come, so they need to prepare for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Madam Halima, your parting shot.
As the doctor says, we should also take care of the hygienic part of this. We should provide sanitation, clean water,
Yes.
sanitary pads for our girls. We must prepare them. I know as NGO we are doing a bit, but they say we cannot reach every girl. Like today, to commemorate the day of menstrual, we are going to 3 schools in Nairobi and in Mukuru kwa Jenga. But that is just too small to say we are able to reach all these girls. So I want to ask the religious people should support this initiative, our government, NGOs, and the Kenyans at large. We should start like the way we do when there is famine. People come and contribute, Kenya for Kenyans. We should contribute for pads for our girls.
As well.
As well.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Halima. Thank you so much, Dr. Hayombe, for joining us for this conversation. It has been a good conversation, and I hope that you have gotten to pick a thing or two from it. And I also hope that the